Howdy folks, and welcome to the Deep Space Travel Break, Episode 30. Your choice for No Man's Sky news, speculation, and more. Well, maybe not your first choice, maybe not even the best choice, but if you're watching this, that means it is your choice. So thank you for tuning in. I'm your host, Kanaju. Today's episode is roping together a bunch of small topics that I've been thinking about producing separate videos for, but I haven't had the time, so now they're in a podcast format. We have the incredibly confusing Adrift expedition lore, which I know a lot of folks have been asking me to talk about, so I'm excited to talk about that. We also have some inconsistencies in the Adrift trailer, which I think are worth speculating about. Not to mention the latest experimental patch, which seems to be gearing up for possible cloud save features. We'll see. And after that, as usual, there are some channel updates at the end of the podcast. So today's episode is sponsored by none other than me. I don't usually accept sponsors on these videos unless I already like their products, like Hello Games. So if you enjoy this podcast, please leave a like and comment to support it. Or check out some of my recent videos you may have missed. I have an hour-long video rambling about how I might improve planetary variety in No Man's Sky. I have a 26-minute long documentary about my almost famous Roblox account. And a few days from now, I'll have an hour-long Assassin's Creed tier list and ranking video where I review and rank every mainline game and most of the spin-offs. That video in particular is like years in the making. So it might not show up on your notifications feed, but if you're interested, just keep an eye out for it next week. Anyways, let's get to the topic of the show, the myriad mysteries of No Man's Sky Adrift. Expedition 13 Adrift is a limited-time adventure that is currently scheduled to run through July 15th, 2024. So you have about a month left to give it a try. I published a quick 10-minute review recommending it, as I do think it's one of the best expeditions so far. The premise of being alone in an abandoned universe is captivating, and the rewards are pretty cool. Check out that review if you're curious, but right now I'd like to get into some spoilers for the expedition. So if you'd rather not hear any spoilers, please jump to the next timecode now. All good? Alright, let's get into spoilers. So the reason I'm not making a dedicated lore video for Expedition 13 is because I'm not sure how definitively I can actually speak on the matter. As usual, Hello Games have made their newest lore as vague and open to interpretation as possible. So I'm not knocking that, by the way, it just means I don't have the answers I seek, and probably that you seek. So let's speculate instead. First off, when and where does this expedition take place, right? This abandoned universe is pretty clearly separate from the main one, either by time or space, right? And we know that the Atlas is capable of simulating multiple realities or universes simultaneously. So it could take place in the future, present, or the past. Or both, future and past, actually. While time seems to occur in a linear fashion in each of the Atlas's simulations, it doesn't necessarily have to be linear outside of them. For example, we have been able to look into the past before, and we can speak to dead people and even see into the future. In a sense, the Atlas has already simulated the past and the future. We're simply experiencing it, 1 second at a time, because that's how our perception works. So it's possible that actions we take near the end of the expedition, using the Mind Ark to release something from the Prime Terminal, maybe that leads to the universe we experience in the main game. It's also quite likely that this takes place after the events of the main game, though. Both scenarios have interesting implications. However, there's one key detail that I believe makes the case for this taking place in the future more likely. That detail is Nada's shell in the anomaly. As you know, Nada and Polo found the anomaly, a space between realities, after they met and became friends. So Nada already being there, even if, not they're there, but their shell is there, it seems to imply that they've already met, already teamed up, and already invited everyone to join them, and have since disappeared. This is further backed up by Cronus' bed and grill still being present, along with other details that just seem like they were left there by the iterations that we are familiar with. This doesn't feel like a pre-Nada Polo anomaly. It seems like the lived-in anomaly that's been abandoned. So then it seems pretty clear that this is the future, right? Well, actually, there's another detail that confuses that idea just a little. You see, in No Man's Sky lore, multiplayer being added actually has a canonical explanation. Each universe, each reality, has one traveler anomaly, aka the player. These anomalies are supposed to be based on neural scans of the Atlas's creator. It's a way for the Atlas to share its creations with its maker in, I think, an attempt to give them meaning, sort of. What's important, though, is that every universe has one traveler, and that the game was single player at launch, right? However, as time passes and the Atlas's death approaches, the barriers between realities begin to weaken. In the 2017 Atlas Rises update, we could perceive other players as little orbs. There was proximity voice chat too. In 2018, we received fully synchronous multiplayer, indicating that travelers could now cross between realities. And finally, in 2019, we received the anomaly we have today, a hub for travelers between universes. The lore states that those barriers between realities will continue to weaken as time passes. However, in the Adrift expedition, players are completely hidden in the anomaly. If you use your scanner's pulse, you can see other players temporarily, but in general, they're more hidden than they usually are. So this seems like the barriers between realities are stronger than usual, which could be seen as an indication that this is the past. However, players are visible still on planets and in space stations, so maybe this is the future, right? Again, more questions than answers. So let's say that Adrift does take place in the future. By then, the conflict with the Abyss would probably have already occurred and been resolved. The thing is, the Abyss was planning to escape the Atlas's simulation somehow. So the lack of any sentient beings might be an indication that the Abyss was able to leave, and took a bunch of followers, brainwashed or not, with them, right? But then again, the Abyss seemed like they needed all of the travelers in order to accomplish that. And we're still playing as travelers. So what does that mean? Not to mention there aren't as many dissonant worlds as you might expect if the Abyss had taken over, right, or accomplished their goals. But then again, the Atlas might be in the process of cleaning that stuff up. You see, another interesting detail of this expedition is the prevalence of Titan sandworms. Certain systems are now designated worm hives. Worm hives. Why does that sound weird? Planets in these systems display more frequent worm activity, including multiple Titan worms being active at once, deposits of cursed dust, and worm burrows on planets of any biome. This is all similar to how worms were portrayed in Expedition 4, Emergence. And in fact, we even get the writhing manuscript back, though it's mostly an Easter egg. I mention this because the Titan worms are sometimes referred to as the veins or appendages of the Atlas. So you could imagine that the worms running rampant is a sign of the Atlas taking back control. But then again, the Atlas has lost control of much of its creation, so maybe the worms are just running loose too. That was kind of the theme of the fourth expedition, right? Is that they were just kind of spreading without any sort of rhyme or reason. And the Atlas didn't really seem to care to do much about it. Also, what's up with all the jellyfish in space? I wonder if that has any lore implications, since we know about the children of Helios, but I didn't encounter any fully grown children of Helios during my expedition, so let me know if you did. Instead, though, I ran into a ghost ship. Now, what the hell does this have to do with anything? I don't know. The ghost ship, it does have some interesting things to say. Like, specifically, it says, "It was not always this way. We were many, we were one, we will be again." And it says, "One by one, the boundaries weakened. The crimson ebbs begins to fade." And there's also some kazits thrown in there, but that's essentially what it says. And the last thing it says is, "The lost and abandoned will become dissonant. A signal in the noise will unite those who roam alone." These statements are very reminiscent of the autophage and their belief in the Void Mother, aka the Abyss. It also mentions the fading of the crimson, a common reference to the Atlas, and the boundaries being weakened. These feel like clues that we are later in the Atlas's life, regardless of where in this universe's timeline we are. The last line about a signal uniting those who roam alone is pretty interesting. It all sort of implies that a great force, possibly the Abyss, is still active in the universe. And that would make sense, since the Abyss needs to gather all of the travelers together, so maybe this is its plan. Maybe that's how Light No Fire starts, right? That's why everyone's on one planet in Light No Fire. Ooh. One last clue that seems to confirm the timeline is the description of the Ghost in the Machine milestone, which states, "As the boundaries weaken, glimpses of another reality become possible. The fragmented remains of other travelers glitch between universes." This is in reference to the traveler grave you must visit as part of that milestone. Strangely, Hello Games went out of their way to create a custom NPC for this grave interaction. Instead of the usual traveler hologram you'd expect, we instead see an anomaly, one that looks like the starter player character. I'm not entirely sure what this means, to be honest, but it is eerie. The only words they say are, "Kzz, I see you. I see all of Kzz." It almost sounds like the Abyss might be communicating with us, right? I could see those words coming from the Abyss, but that's not confirmed by any means. It's just, I just think it's spooky. But okay, we need to talk about the elephant in the room, right? The Mind Ark. The Mind Ark is a devious device developed by Null, the first traveler, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a while since I made my big lore video. I'll put a link to it in the description if you're interested. Regardless, the Mind Ark is a device that Null used to absorb the souls of travelers. They were able to extend their life far beyond their natural lifespan by doing so. And during the main game, Null gives you the blueprint to the Mind Ark, so you can attempt to save Artemis. Interestingly, you can transfer Artemis from the Mind Ark into Nada's Prime Terminal during that story. However, in Adrift, use the Mind Ark to transfer something out. Something that isn't explicitly explained to us. At this point, I should also mention that during the events of Singularity, you also transfer an untold number of digital souls into that same terminal. Yar, the souls of the damned. Actually, they're dead autophage, but still, it's kind of morbid. What's even more interesting, though, is that the Echo Seeds, aka the dead autophage, are deposited into the terminal's secondary simulation designated 19. If you chose to transfer Artemis to the terminal, it would be in secondary simulation 5. However, in Adrift, you're transferring something mysterious from the simulation, and then it's simulation 16. Now, I don't have to tell you how significant the number 16 is in No Man's Sky. It's almost like a boogeyman, right? It's the number of minutes the Atlas has left to live in the original story. It's a sacred number. And the exact text reads on the terminal, "Secondary simulation 16 updated. Population decrement complete." Population decrement, you say? Complete? Well, if the autophage are stored in simulation 19, and Artemis is alone in simulation 5, then who the heck are stored in simulation 16? I'm tempted to jump to conclusions about, the Abyss. But the Abyss is returning from the Realm of Glass as far as I remember. Unless Nada kept a literal portal to the Realm of Glass in his house, the Mind Ark being filled with the Abyss seems unlikely. Then again, now that I think about it, if Nada's running a simulation of Korvax Prime, their lost home, then they're technically running a simulation of the Void Mother, the Abyss. Since Korvax Prime was sacred to Korvax, and 16 is a sacred number, I could see Nada doing such a thing, right? I don't think that's confirmed anywhere that he is. But then again, what good would a secondary simulation of Korvax Prime, or even the original Korvax, be? And are the Aerons included in that simulation? So many questions. Not to mention, if you remember back in 2019, 2020, Hesperus tried to, he was working with some Korvax to try and simulate the Abyss, which I suppose in a sense is like simulating Korvax Prime. And I think it ended up getting all of the Korvax killed, and he ended up using nanites, or they ended up using nanites to erase their own memory because they felt a lot of shame and guilt at getting all those Korvax killed. But I don't think it was the simulation that killed them. I think it was the fact that when they generated, or when they simulated that version of the Abyss, I think it got the attention of the real Abyss. But again, I don't know, it's all very sketchy. Universes within universes. There also seems to be a running motif about dreaming and sleeping in this expedition, and also some text about worm burrows that reads, "The vessel of the many mouths is drawn to the titan worm burrows. Note, the many mouths are drawn by an unknown force towards the expedition rendezvous points." Huh? What does that mean? The posters, one of them is, reaching out, like, is anyone out there? The history of the ghost ship is constantly changing, implying the overlapping of timelines, perhaps. And why are there so many jellyfish in space? I already asked that one. Like I said at the beginning of this video, none of this makes any sense to me, so please leave your theories in the comments below.
Also, I 100% forgot to mention this code that you're given by the Prime Terminal. I tried decoding it with one of those mass decoders. I even tried to break it up based on patterns and stuff, but I couldn't decipher any meaning. It seems like no one else has a definitive answer either. What do y'all think?
Are we playing as Artemis in an empty simulation? Well, I don't think so, because Simulation 5 was only a single star system, and we moved between systems in this expedition. Is this a completely separate simulated timeline that has nothing to do with our main story? Maybe, right? Might not even be past or present. Should you play through Adrift before July 15th? Definitely. Alright, that's enough lore for me. It's spilling on my ears. And you see, this is why I don't make lore videos, right? One, because I'm lazy, but two, because I always end up right back where I started, which is knowing practically nothing. Still, it is fun to speculate, isn't it? So let's keep this crazy speculation train going and talk about what might be coming soon in future updates. First off, cloud saves. Hello Games released an update to the experimental branch on June 11th that, quote, refactored the internal save architecture and layout to support future improvements, unquote. Translation, sounds like they're gearing up for cloud saves. Shout out to that bomber boy on Twitter, @bomber_that. They're a master at digging into No Man's Sky's files, and they're the ones that found some references to cloud saves that lead me to believe we're going to get cloud saves. Now, I won't go into detail, you can find their profile and learn more if you're interested, but seems pretty much all but confirmed at this point. Now, what isn't confirmed is whether or not this will be HG's solution to cross saves. For those unaware, cross saving is the ability to save your game on one platform, then access that save and continue your playthrough on another platform. They implemented a basic version of this on PS4 when the PS5 launched. You could upload your save data from your PS4, then download it on your PS5. However, this was a one-way trip. Cloud saves, on the other hand, can usually be updated automatically. That could theoretically mean that your saves could be synced across different platforms simultaneously. Again, cross-save is not confirmed in any capacity, but cloud saves basically are. Whether we'll see these added in a standalone patch similar to crossplay or rolled into a larger summer update is also unknown. I'm also hoping that these upgraded save files will include other improvements, right? Such as more capacity for discoveries, base parts, ships, multi-tools, or something like that. Even just the ability to bring platform-specific rewards across platforms would be pretty cool. I have the Xbox helmet, but I never use it, right? Because it's on Xbox. But I wouldn't mind bringing it to PlayStation, if only for shits and giggles. Besides cloud saves, there are other clues that we could look at, right, for future features. The Orbital trailer showed shuttles being built in the Starship construction terminal, and the Adrift patch notes tease solar ships too. I always assume that Hello Games plan to expand this feature in the future, and I think it's a fair guess that we'll see at least shuttles added by the end of the year. Of course, they haven't promised anything, so don't get your hopes up too much. I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised if they did. Watching the Adrift trailer, there are a couple of inclusions that also stand out. Firstly, what's with all the fauna on this dead world, right? That should be impossible. And I didn't see any while I was in the expedition, yet there they are in the trailer. It could be a cut feature from the expedition, or it could have been a bug that caused them not to show up. Or it could be a tease for something, the addition of fauna on dead planets. I don't know. Either way, it's interesting to see. The other odd thing is this crashed starship near the anomalous grave. This was actually something I was excitedly looking for while playing the expedition. Unfortunately, I don't think this or any of the broken starship parts were actually implemented into the procedural generation. I'm still holding out hope though that they will be added. After all, they seem to have put a lot of work into these parts for them not to be available to players after July 15th, right? When the expedition ends, you can't get the base parts anymore, so that'd be a lot of work to put into something very specific. I just think they'd be great to find on planets. I talk about it in my hour-long variety video, so if you're interested in that kind of stuff, you know where to find it. Lastly, the sparks on the abandoned space station, I didn't see any sparks in my playthrough, and I was looking for them. So let me know if y'all did see any sparks. It could just be the old RNG, you know? And also, what do y'all think is coming next? What are you hoping for? I'm personally hoping we see a full content update in either July or August. The end of July following the expedition would be cool, but no HG tends to trend towards August, September these days. And you know me, I'm always hoping for more combat, more procedural dungeons, and more variation of any kind, really. I'm also hoping for a continuation of last year's Abyss/Autophage storyline, which I can't wait for. Speaking of combat, that Bomber Boy also uncovered some evidence that they may be adding a boss health bar, similar to what we see with the Dreadnoughts, to the Sentinel Walker battle. So that would be cool. Again, check out their Twitter if you want to see everything they've uncovered. I didn't go over all of it, but it's pretty interesting stuff. And I really do hope they upgrade the Walker combat, even if it's just adding a health bar, because it makes it feel more like a boss battle when you do that, you know? Anyways, last topic of the show is this channel. It's no secret that I've been uploading fewer videos this year compared to previous years. Part of that is that my production pipeline kind of got clogged up by some very long, very involved videos. Again, check out my Variation Quantified, the follow-up about improving variety, my Roblox documentary, and my upcoming Assassin's Creed tier list to see where a lot of that time is gone. It's my most involved content this year. I've also had several videos planned since last summer that I just haven't had the time to get to this year. I work full-time outside of YouTube. I'm having a book published, and I've been working on various other side projects in addition to, the usual life stuff. So it's been kind of tough to balance video production with all that, but don't worry, I'm not planning to put the channel on hiatus or anything. And I'm definitely not planning to reduce output any more than I already have. In fact, I'm planning to buy a new mic and my first capture card later this fall in order to make my video production more efficient. So look forward to that. And I do plan to keep the focus of the channel on No Man's Sky and Light No Fire. However, as always, I also plan to continue making Assassin's Creed, BioShock, and other game videos that I find interesting. So thank you everyone for sticking with me over all this time, and a special thanks to my channel members. After consulting my members, my valued members, I've moved away from the members-only live streams for now. However, I am interested in recording future episodes of the Deep Space Travel Break podcast live for members only, and then releasing the final version on YouTube as normal. That way I can respond to member input and questions in real time, right? Kind of spice up the podcast, and also bring y'all into content a little more. I think that might be a fun perk. Let me know what you think, though, in the comments below. And thanks again, everyone, for your support. With all that said, I think I can wrap up episode 30 of the Deep Space Travel Break. Thanks, folks. Don't forget to leave a like or dislike if you made it this far. And feel free to check out one of my longer videos after this if you need something to put on in the background while you play or clean or work on something else. I'm always playing like 4-hour videos in the background while I work. Shout out Jenny Nicholson. Speaking of which, I gotta go edit this into a video now, so adios!
Oh shoot, I also forgot to ask y'all to subscribe if you haven't already. I've gotten rusty it seems. Thanks, bye.